Today's video, we're going to talk about using exact and phrase match keywords together at the same time. Here's how to actually do it for maximum profit. Now, I will tell you right up front, there is times where you're going to use both of these in actuality to make the most profit from your ad account. And there are times when you're not. That is, you'll make more money doing one or the other. Namely, or more often, just exact match versus just phrase match. Okay, I'm going to explain why that is in today's video. But with that said, there are lots of gray areas here where using both is going to make you the most profit, but you would only want to do it sometimes with the phrase match and all the time with the exact match. And that is specifically what I want to tell you about in today's video, the strategy we're using to get the most money out of phrase match, given phrase match runs very liberally nowadays. It runs like broad match keywords used to run 5 years ago through Google Ads. I'm going to go through my strategy to be able to get phrase match to work for you and not end up blowing tons of your money, and why exact match with phrase match with this particular limited phrase match is the best way to go. I'm also going to explain whether you're going to want to put phrase match and exact match in different campaigns, different ad groups, or within the same ad group, which is a major question that I get time and time again on even in this comment section on this channel, of which I'll specifically address and put to rest once and for all. With that said, I will go into all that. Before I get into the content though, if you do not know who I am Corey Ziman, owner of Guaranteed PPC, an online advertising agency that specializes in guaranteeing results for their clients. That is, we do not charge our clients management fees until we can make them a certain minimum lift in the profitability up front in excess of the management fee. We are the only agency out there who offers any kind of similar contingency guarantee, which tell you something about the quality of the information that I'm sharing with you on this particular video. So with that said, getting into the content, a lot of times now, the right answer as to whether you want to use phrase match or exact match is just one, or should I say, which one is better? Or should I use them together? Should I use both of them? Is just using just one, as I mentioned at the start of this video. However, there are many more times where using both makes you the most money. But that is when you use phrase match with exact match, but you use it in a limited way. That is the phrase match, not using it for all keywords. So I would say 75% of the markets out there, you're gonna make the most money running exact match and phrase match both, but phrase match for only some of your keywords, because running phrase match for some keywords is gonna run a lot more junk traffic than other keywords in phrase match. And the general rule of thumb there is, the more specific of keyword or long tail the keyword, the more likely it is that it will work in phrase match. That is, you can make money from it after expenses, after paying for your ad spend and your overhead and all that. You're making a profit from that particular keyword in phrase match at the end of the day, okay? So if you're not sure about your situation after reading through, what I do to figure this out for the markets that we're in and go through, to make sure we got the right match types for each keyword and how to structure this, you can leave me a comment in the comment section below. Tell me your market you're in and I'll tell you what I would do in that market. You can also reach out to me at my agency at Guaranteed PPC and you can do a quick coaching call with me. Been doing a lot of those recently. Everybody who's been doing coaching with me, I'm able to get them unstuck in terms of their revenue goals, figure out what's wrong with their business after looking at their website, their pricing strategy, all of it. We also, beyond that, can offer to do your ads for you completely. A white glove service, if you will, doing everything, getting the results, and then only charging you when the results are there at a minimum level, which is our guaranteed offer. We have a Guaranteed PPC. So if you're interested in that, you can let me know. Reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com and we can discuss it. With that said, the strategy here now getting into as to whether you're going to want to run exact phrase or both for each keyword. If you're going to do it like our agency does, and I do here at our agency, you're going to start with exact match only, okay? And the reason for that is, unlike what these other gurus are basically telling you on YouTube, they're going to tell you broad match keywords are the way to go, because Google's so smart now, they can figure out who your customers are, and you only need 5 or 10 keywords in your account, because Google can tell by what you mean what you're looking for. Like if you're a plumber, you only got to put plumbing services, plumbers, 24-hour plumbers, and put them in a broad match and you're good. That is a recipe for a huge amount of waste in your account. This broad match keywords are more so for huge companies that have huge budgets, that don't need a return right away, and just want to get down to business quickly. If you have limited funds and you only have so much money to spend before it needs to pay, your ads need to pay for themselves, you do not want to use broad match keywords. And in fact, you don't want to run and use phrase match keywords until your ads make money, because exact match is going to be the most efficient version of the keyword match types and will get you the best ROI the soonest. For that matter, a lot of times when you run phrase match, it's going to blow up your account. So why would your default position be, let's run exact match or phrase match keywords here, after wasting a whole bunch of money, have to shut them off, when you could start with an exact match and get a much better return guaranteed? Your phrase match keywords are not making money. You could weather it because you're already making money from the exact match keywords. And, practically speaking, the way that I scale up to millions of dollars a year in ads, in revenue from our ads, running Google ads for our clients' businesses, starting from scratch, it's you start with what's most likely to work. You make money from that after expenses. You make a profit. You take that profit, you put it into new campaigns, knowing those new campaigns aren't going to run and they're not going to be as easy as the first campaigns to get to work, but you run it for a while, you optimize, and you eventually get it working. Then the money you make from that, you go into another campaign and you just keep building things up, starting from search campaigns, doing demand gen ads and YouTube ads, and then, all display campaigns, and you just parlay what you're making from one to the next, to the next, to the next. If you're a small company and you got to bootstrap your business like that, that's what you got to do or should do. With that said, you run your everything in exact match, you make your return, you start to hit a plateau. Then that's the time when you should be starting to think about phrase match, but not before. However, a lot of times you're in a market that isn't a huge market. To give you an example, we had a client who did epoxy floor installation for like garages, that clear glossy floor that you can put on your garage. He's doing that. Not a lot of people get that on a monthly basis. Even in a city with 1 million people, 100 people a month are getting that, or a couple hundred or a few hundred, not many. If you run exact match keywords only, especially if you don't run a few hundred versions of those exact match keywords, which you should absolutely do, by the way, to make exact match work. And then along with that, you set up single keyword ad groups to get the right click-through rate out of those exact match keywords as well. But you do it in a market like that, you're gonna find out that you're not gonna get very many clicks. And if your starting ad budget's $100 a day that you have to invest to get things going, that you can afford to lose until your campaigns are working, and you spend $50 a day with exact match, well then at that time, that's the time you gotta also say, I'm ready to start looking at phrase match here, because I have to. So if you aren't able to spend your full budget on exact match only, after you've had a few hundred keyword variants to target every variation of every term, and doing it with single keyword ad groups so you get every last click and click-through rate out of those terms as possible, and you have the highest conversion rate out of each term possible because you have dedicated custom landing pages for each keyword, you phrase match keywords to your account within the same ad groups. So in the ad groups that you have set up, your single keyword ad group campaigns that have one keyword per ad group, which is what single keyword ad group campaigns are, you got the keyword in each one of those ad groups in exact match. What you do is you take the phrase match version of that same keyword and you put it in the same ad group. Why in the same ad group? You may ask, because the default thinking is, why would you need both in each ad group? Google is only going to be able to use one. The reality is the same ad that you would use for the exact match version of the keyword is the same ad you'd use for the phrase match version of the keyword, particularly because you can do a negative keyword siloing technique. So to give you an example of this, because the other reason why people say what I'm putting exact and phrase match version of a keyword in each ad group is stupid, because they don't understand negative keyword siloing. So if you're targeting two different keywords, red shoes and best red shoes, the ad group that has the keyword red shoes can have the negative keyword best. So when somebody types in best red shoes, they get the ad intended for best red shoes to show up for that user. Respectively, that will make sure the right ad shows up for each person that are making each search of the few hundred keyword that you're targeting. And then within that, you have the exact and phrase match version of that keyword within each ad group, because there'll be slight deviations of your keyword. Like if you are targeting best red shoes in a phrase and exact, you could have #1 best red shoes as the search. That won't be triggered by your exact match version of that keyword, but the phrase match version of that keyword will trigger it. Picked up with that phrase match version of the keyword, it gets you a little bit more exposure than you wouldn't have got by the exact match version of that keyword by itself. That's specifically why you would use both. and why you would specifically use them in each ad group. And you normally use different ad groups because you want different ad copy for different keywords. Well, since the keyword is technically the same between the exact and phrase match version of that keyword in the same ad group, you only need one ad, so they could be both put in that same ad group together. Follow me? If you are like me and you want to be extra careful about not blowing out your budget and run out of money so you cannot advertise another day because you're broke and you need to shut your ads off completely, the smart thing to do would be to not just automatically target all your keywords in phrase match right away. You would do what I do and you pick the longest phrases to target in phrase match first to dip your toe into the water of phrase match keywords. So what I mean by this is you're going to want to target any 5-word keyword combinations with phrase match first and only that. If you're a shoe salesman, you're targeting red shoes, best red shoes. If you got keywords that are like best red shoes for sale, if you're targeting that keyword, which you should be because each variant of keyword you want to target separately because you're going to get the most click-through rate that way and the best conversion rate that way because you're laser targeting it with custom ads, custom landing pages. And you find out all the variants of keywords by using Google Keyword Planner and SpyFu or SEMrush and to exhaust everything you can in your market in terms of individual unique searches that you can target individually with unique keywords. But the keywords with 5 actual different words in it are the longest or most specific keywords that you're targeting. Those are the terms as well that are the least likely to go crazy with phrase match that you have. Targeting best red shoes for sale in phrase match is going to get mostly stuff related to red shoes for sale versus if you target red shoes in phrase match, you're going to get all kinds of crazy shit. You're going to get red shoe pictures, red shoe movies, all this shit that you don't want. And the shorter the term that you have, the more likely that phrase match is going to pull in junk traffic. So if you're trying to make solid moves moving forward to scale your account, and you don't want to go through a huge learning period where Google blows a ton of your money while it figures out what doesn't work and what works with your conversion tracking, you start with only targeting 5-word with phrase match first. You're going to add the phrase match version of the keyword in the ad groups that have the keywords in exact match that are 5 words or more. You're going to run it, and then you're going to see whether all of those 5-word combinations were working in phrase match, which are not. If they're not working, obviously pause it. If you look at the search terms report for that particular 5-word phrase that's in phrase match and it's bringing in a bunch of junk traffic, you could either add negative keywords to the ad group or you could just pause it outright. Me, normally, I'm not going to worry about the negative keywords if the amount of junk traffic it's bringing in is more than half of the traffic for that particular keyword when I check the search terms report. I'm just going to gut it and say, hey, this isn't working for this keyword. I'll throw it in the trash can. Then, once you've plateaued your results, again, you've plateaued your results on exact match. Then you added the 5-word phrases in phrase match and your results plateau. Then, and only then, you're going to add the 4-word phrases in a phrase match. And you're going to add those into the appropriate ad groups that have 4-word phrase terms in exact match so that those 4-word phrases in an exact match and in the ad groups that they're in have also a phrase match version of that keyword within each of those ad groups. Then you're going to just wait a while, wait for your results to plateau, because each time you do this, you're going to see your overall impressions shoot up and shoot up some more, shoot up some more. And then you'll need time for the algorithm to adjust. Even though the search terms look good for that keyword, it's never going to be 100% good. The algorithm's going to have to use your conversion data to weed out the other search terms that the ad shouldn't be triggering for, and then eventually get to profitability for those new keywords that you added. Then your results will basically plateau. Then you're going to add the next round of phrase match keywords, 3-word combinations specifically. Now, 2-word combinations I never typically add in phrase match. That'll almost always net unprofitable results. And so we're going to add 5-word combinations, 4-word combinations, and then finally 3-word combinations. Then once we've done that, we've hit the end of the road and we're done. With each stop being that you're going to carefully check your results, quickly pull out terms that where more than half of your search terms report is showing junk traffic, and then keep going and going until you're at the end of the road here. That is specifically the formula for running phrase and exact match together. That's going to make you the most profit and waste the least amount of money up front while you do it. If you are in a market that we've worked in already, in the last 11 years that we've been running this agency, we worked in hundreds of different niche markets. If we've worked in your market, you can literally buy from us the winning ad templates, landing page templates, all of it that work for your niche market. So you can copy paste it into your ad account and get the same results we're getting. And we can tell you the results you're going to get with it up front because we've already got those campaigns running before and we track our results well. You would do yourself a huge favor buying that template from us if we've worked in your niche market. There's no way you're going to save yourself money doing the same for yourself that we spent years figuring out how to get results in your market. That can be your way to shortcut your way to success with this so you don't have to go through this whole process and just know the phrase match keywords that work. And just know where to go and how far you want to go exactly with phrase match and where you don't. So I just wanted to bring that up as well. The templates are very popular now that we started offering them, and they get amazing results. Furthermore, if you haven't subscribed to this channel yet, you absolutely should, because the information is solid on this channel and it comes from somebody who's truly an expert that deals with ad strategy and has to come up with ad strategy as their full-time job every day, which is unlike 99% of the so-called gurus on YouTube that have good fancy editing but don't actually manage any ads themselves. If you want to learn how to truly make millions of dollars running ads for your business, you want to subscribe to this channel. You also can check out my blog on my site at guaranteedppc.com/blog. The blog has literal step-by-step instructions to use the strategies we're using to guarantee results for clients at our firm, and with screenshots, with everything you would need to use them. So you should definitely check that out as well if you like this channel. Now, the final kind of note about phrase match and exact match and using them together is a lot of people asked, should you put the phrase match and exact match in different ad groups? I touched on this, and the answer to that is no, because you would normally have the same ad for both. So what is the purpose of having them separated out? All you're going to do is just have extra ad groups, which is going to water down your data. The data is going to be spread against two ad groups, and therefore it would be to your disadvantage to separate them out when you could put them in the same ad groups. And like I said before, you can do negative keyword siloing, and that helps out make sure the right ad shows for the right keyword and everything else. Now, some people will also say, Corey, should I use separate campaigns for phrase match versus exact match? That is, have one campaign that just houses all the keywords in exact match and have another campaign that houses all the same keywords but in phrase match. I do not do this either. And the reason for this is because I want to have different campaigns for a different purpose. Specifically, I use separate campaigns for different keyword themes. What I'll typically do when I go and harvest all the keywords in my niche that we're going to target for a business, and we're going to separate it out by buying terms, info terms, people looking for information about a topic, and then competitor terms. I want buyer terms in their own campaign because they're going to convert significantly different than the info terms. Not only that, but we'll use different campaigns for each location. So one of my favorite strategies that I have, that are my ace in the hole that I have right in my pocket and pull that out all the freaking time, is to have different campaigns for each state in the US if we're targeting US clients or customers. So for something like product design services, offering product design, instead of doing what everybody else is going to do and show our ads everywhere across the US with one generic ad, we're going to have an ad that says product design company in Texas, or #1 in product design in Texas. And that makes them want to click our ad at double the rate they would otherwise. Or if we're talking about a local home service company, we're going to have the name, not of the overall city like Dallas, but it's going to be the name of the suburb that the user's in. So they also going to click on the ad at double, if not triple the rate that other people's ads are going to get clicked on that we're competing against, giving us a massive advantage. So I'm going to have different campaigns set up to segment the different locations out there we're targeting, so we can have the location the user is in the ad to get that massive increase in click-through rate. Because we use different campaigns to segment those things out, we wouldn't want to separate out exact and phrase match necessarily. That's the main reason, but there's also the reason of exact and phrase match keywords don't perform that much differently than each other at the end of the day. If you know how to add negative keywords to your account and block out the portion of the phrase match traffic that you get that you don't want. After 90 days of adding negative keywords, after bringing in your phrase match, if you've done it right, 80 to 90% of the search terms report you would want it to look like, and then you're good. However, when we do use broad match keywords, which I harp all the time on this channel, never use broad match keywords. I don't actually never say never. 98% of the time we don't use broad match keywords. In the situation where we've done exactly what I talked about and we've plateaued our results using exact and then later using phrase match keywords, if we cannot make a single another dime from those keywords anymore, we'll add broad match as the very last step, and we'll do it in a separate campaign because broad match performs way, way, way different than phrase and exact. Phrase and exact keywords are not that much different from one another at the end of the day. I mean, they are, but they are. You could say if here's is exact and here's phrase, here's broad. So if you're going to do this, you want a separate campaign for the main reason being for a very, very long time. It can bring in extra sales that your exact and phrase match won't pull in because it'll show up for weird you never thought of that generates sales or qualified leads. 95% of it's going to be junk traffic. And you got to really let the algorithm run through all the junk traffic to find the gems within all of it. And it's actually really good to find new keywords, new keyword themes to target. But if our overall account's spending $1,000 a day, we'll put our broad match keyword at 100 a day so that no matter how piss poor it performs, it's never going to bring down our overall account average to where our account's unprofitable as a whole. We're investing in the future learnings that the campaign's going to provide, but short term, we're not going to be unprofitable while we get those learnings. And so we'll have a separate campaign so we can limit the budget specifically on broad match. And about broad match, but I wanted to bring that up as well to kind of like explain why things should go in a different campaign or not go in a different campaign, or one ad group versus different match types in two different ad groups, which I already addressed that. And that's specifically because phrase and exact are not different from one another. And one ad covers both of them anyway, so you might as well put them in the same ad group because of that. So, but with that said, I'm going to pretty much wrap it up with that. Hopefully that makes a lot of sense for you, puts this whole thing to rest about how to implement exact and phrase and how do they work together. So hopefully that makes sense. I'll see you in the next one.
Remember when I said phrase match keywords was important during this video? Well, this video here tells you how to do it.